Ladies and gentlemen, now in today's video we're going to be having a little bit of a chat about my thoughts on some of the best and most valuable Unawakened champions in Marvel Contest of Champions as of October 2019. Now before we start that, I just want to give the standard tier list disclaimer, because this is in the wonderful tier list format but very different from our standard tier list, kind of removing the awakened abilities and also high signature levels as well, that this is just a rough guide to what I personally consider to be the best and most valuable champions. So, you know, I play this game a fair bit, like day in, day out, but at the end of the day, man, there's still stuff that I miss, like occasionally, and also it's just my opinion on certain champions. And if you want to have a different opinion, that is totally allowed, man. Feel free to, like, I'm not always right, but I like to think that I've got a fairly decent handle on the game, so, you know, I'm not doing too bad. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into today's breakdown after a very quick word from our sponsors. For those of you who don't already know, Raid Shadow Legends is the smash hit free-to-play mobile game that's been taking the world by storm. In just 6 months, this game already has over 10 million downloads. And have a look at that, with over 300,000 reviews, Raid has an almost perfect 5-star rating. Honestly, the characters and graphics in this game look absolutely phenomenal, and you have the ability to personally customize and choose what artifacts you want and build a unique mastery setup around every single character. The game has grown super fast, and the brand new feature Faction Wars has just gone live. Not to mention, Raid have added in a mega 90-day login calendar for all new players, so you get to enjoy an absolute truckload of rewards. So what are you waiting for? Go to the video description, click on the special links, and you will get 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as part of the new player program to kickstart your journey. If you want to check out some Raid gameplay, we do have a 5-video series on the channel. Good luck, and I'll see you there. So mad love to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring today's video. However, let's dive into the tier list breakdown. So for this tier list, we have 3 different icons and a bit of a key to these icons at the top of the page. So we've got a couple in love, which indicates that a champion has a large benefit from synergies. So a character like Domino, for example, you could get Domino as your first 5-star champion, 6-star champion, and even with like a 3-star version of Red Hulk and Massacre, you can still have the synergies you need to make her an absolute beast. So for a lot of the champions that rely on synergies, a lot of these synergies are accessible even with 3 or 4-star versions of those characters, and 3 stars are like candy in this game at the moment, and 4 stars are like so much easier to get than they used to be. So yeah, I decided to kind of factor in synergies to this tier list. I know in the past that you know, we haven't included synergies, but I thought, you know, a lot of these synergies are widely accessible, even with lower star characters as well. We also kind of have this up arrow, which indicates that a champion needs fights in order to ramp up, and also somebody doing a handstand, which indicates that there is a high skill requirement, and that you're probably going to need to look into a few videos on that champion, and just kind of practice, because a lot of characters, man, especially toward the top tier, are a little bit more tricky to play and do have in some scenarios where, like Ghost and Quake, some very quirky and different play styles as well. But anyway, let's chat about some of the beyond god tier champions, so characters that I think, even without their awakened abilities, are just absolutely insane to pull. So you want to see these champions you know, ideally as soon as possible in your 5-star champion crystals, your 6-star champion crystals. So first up, we got Domino. Domino is just absolutely insane. The awakened ability does very little for Domino when you're playing this champion on offense. It's kind of mainly used to like annoy people on Alliance War defense. It does add like a little bit more damage, but Domino, even unawakened, she's got all of her damage output, very powerful heavy attacks with the Trinity, critical bleeds on the special 2, special 3, and a lot of interesting stuff that she can do with ability accuracy reduction and unlucky and all that stuff. And then we got Corvus, who's just an absolute beast. His awakened ability is really nice to have because it gives you like a cheat death mechanic as long as you have glaive charges, but even without it, man, he's just absolutely mowing down content. So yeah, Corvus is a beast even without his awakened ability. Captain Marvel movie, her awakened ability is really nice to have because it gives you like a period of immunity when you hit 25 binary ignition or go into it, and that's really good for getting around all sorts of like bursty, fun and interactive damage. However, even without the Awakened ability, she still hits like a friggin' truck, man. Ideally with Captain Marvel movie, you do need any star version of Nick Fury for the synergy, but yeah, she's a beast, man. She's so much fun to play as well, so mad love for Captain Marvel movie. Magic, you just gotta spam the special to win the video game. The Awakened ability to kind of access Limbo a little bit more is very nice to have, especially if you're using like the Warlock synergy for a bit more damage output. But even unawakened, she has the ability to completely shut down the opponent's power gain, just keep them in the corner, spam intercept, and just use the special 2, and she's just a really, really effective counter to like so much content in the game. Then we got Symbiote Supreme, so any scenario where there are buffs on the opponent and you can also bleed the opponent, Symbiote Supreme is just crazy good. One of the best counters for like the champion boss in Act 6.2, and yeah, he's got so much damage output, just the ability to very aggressively strip back all buffs and nullify them on the special 3. Great synergy with the Mystic Dispersion Mastery as well, but Symbiote Supreme is just an absolute beast, man. Such a good champion to get. Then we also have the Stark Enhanced version of SpiderMan. This dude hits like a friggin' truck. You've got the assisted evade, the power drain on the heavy attack, the chain stun on the special 1. There's a lot of stuff you can do via all sorts of endgame content, especially like variant 1 and variant 3 he's really good for. Next up we have Ghost, and Ghost is just crazy, man. She's easily like top 3 champions in the game at the moment. A little bit tricky to play. She does take a lot of practice, a lot of learning to get Ghost really down, because you need to know how to kind of like phase intercept the opponent. But once you do, like, the sky is the limit when it comes to Ghost. She's so powerful, got a tremendous amount of damage output. When you dash back and phase, you remove all damaging debuffs, so she can take care of like all sorts of crazy scenarios. But yeah, Ghost is just so good. And then we got a brand new addition to the tier list in the form of Guillotine 2099. So I was very lucky that I managed to score a 6-star version of this champion at New York Comic Con by winning the Friday final, which I'm still so chuffed about. And we've done like a ton of Labyrinth gameplay videos already, and this champion is crazy, man. She's like a better version of Star-Lord with so much more utility packed in. She's got double immunities, a bit of regeneration as well, heal reversal on the special 2, like a lot of degeneration debuffs to synergize with the Despair Mastery. So there is, you know, so much potential for Guillotine 2099. She's a great Labyrinth champion, very good for variants 1 and 3, a lot of uses in Act 6 as well. She can be used for the crossbones, but if you get this champion as like your first 5-star or 6-star champion in like 6 months time, the sky is really the limit, man. She's a very powerful champion. So yeah, just absolutely insane, man. And again, we've got plenty of gameplay on the channel if you do want to see her there. And then we have Warlock as well in the Beyond God tier. Now, Warlock is probably my favorite champion that has been released this year, just because he works for like almost everything in the game. He's an XL champion, he's a tech champion, which just makes him great for like all 3 of the variants. He just dominates some of the most difficult and annoying fights. You also have ways to deal with any form of regeneration, because he is a passive infection, which applies to the opponent and doesn't count as a debuff, so it allows you to get around like so many different annoying nodes and scenarios, like debuff immunity, like some of the most annoying fights in variant 3, like that big regeneration rogue, and also like Act 6 fights like the crossbones, the Mr. Sinister, if you bring the correct synergy with Heimdall as well. But yeah, there just isn't much that Warlock can't do. He's just such a versatile and amazing champion, and I had so many people come up to me at New York Comic Con saying that because of the Warlock videos, they went for the featured, they got Warlock, they've taken him straight up to rank 5, and they are just loving the champion, man. They were really hustling me for the Beyond God tier promotion, and I had about 10 different people like come up to me and just sing the praises of Warlock, so it's just crazy, man, how much love this champion is getting at the moment. But honestly, he lives up to the hype, man. If you take him up to a high rank, he is so good, and he just counters like pretty much everything in the game. He's just insane, man. Such a good character. character. So yeah, I personally love Warlock, and we got plenty of Alliance War gameplay, like Act 6 variant gameplay from Warlock on the channel. Then finally, we have the skill goddess of the science class, and that's Quake. Quake is just insane. If you know how to play this champion really, really well, and you can just play in the corner, like spamming that heavy attack, never getting hit, like she's just a whole new level of ridiculous, man. And Dork Lessons, I think KT1 as well, have tons of really, really good videos on Quake. But yeah, she's just absolutely crazy in the hands of the right player. But yeah, definitely check out some videos if you aren't familiar. But if you do want to get the most out of her, again, she has a high skill requirement, so you do need to learn how to play her very, very well. Then moving on to the god tier, so these are all still absolutely amazing champions. Iceman, you got triple immunities, evade counter, also damage cap with the ice armor. Emma Frost, you've got the ability to counter evade, a lot of immunities at the start, and a lot of utility depending on the way that you play this champion. Archangel, Unawakened, you're missing the ability accuracy reduction, but if you can bleed and poison the opponent, you still have a truckload of damage. He's still really, really good. Havoc is still just an absolute beast. Doesn't really need his awakened ability. You've got so much burst off that special 3, a huge amount of energy reduction and also absorption, because you convert energy damage into plasma stacks as well, and also a great synergy with the Despair Mastery to counter healing in a lot of scenarios. Then we have Sunspot, who's a personal favorite of mine. This guy has so much damage output. He's also Incinerate immune, a lot of debuffs for the Despair Mastery, and also some map 7 nodes as well. And also when you parry and the opponent does have an Incinerate, you always take 0 block damage, and if you parry a special, you'll take 0 damage through the duration of the special. So yeah, Sunspot's a beast, man. He's really, really fun to play. Namor, without his awakened ability, loses the ability to kind of reflect damage back at his opponent when he's attacking into them, so that is a really valuable piece of utility. But even without that, he's still got a bit of regeneration and some crazy damage output potential, so Namor's still a really solid champion to pull even unawakened. Mega Red, like, he's missing a lot of the damage when he is unawakened, but he still has like double immunities. His medium attacks don't make contact with the opponent, so you can get around champions like Electro and also Korg. And also you have the regeneration from the special 3 and special 1, which is pretty mega. So really, like, you've got all his base utility, you're kind of just missing like the really big damage, and the big damage is kind of what at least in my opinion, elevates him to that really solid beyond god tier level. And then we have Sabretooth. So Sabretooth deals some crazy damage. Like, after a couple of fights and you ramp this dude up, he's absolutely ridiculous, especially with the Killmonger synergy. It adds in this new form of utility. Whenever you apply a debuff, you reduce the opponent's ability accuracy by 100% for, like, it's just under a second. So that allows you to play around so many nodes and matchups and scenarios. Allows you to, like, completely ignore the masochism node, for example. So Sabretooth, he's very useful for stuff in variant 1, like Act 5, Act 6. He's a bit of a beast there. Black Widow Clairvoyant, ideally you do want the Suicide Masteries if you play with Black Widow, but yeah, you've got a lot of regeneration, some very strong nullify potential, some very good power control if you stick in the poison phase as well, and lots of interesting, like, little bits and bobs that you can do with Black Widow, man. So she's a very useful champion. And then we got Morningstar. Morningstar does need like, ideally a few fights to ramp up if you really do want to see kind of the power of this character. But once you get like 4 or 5 souls, she's absolutely crazy. There is so much damage output, 50% chance to perfect block, some really solid regeneration as well. So yeah, she's very, very fun to play even unawakened. The stealth suit version of SpiderMan doesn't really need his awakened ability. The awakened ability just adds on a little bit more damage, but even without it, you still have some great damage output, a very, very high crit chance, a very strong fury. Also the ability to counter any champion that has like unstoppable, invisible, evade effects with his slow pre-fight ability. So yeah, Spider-Man's stealth is still a beast even without his awakened ability. Again, just doesn't really need it in the first place, but it is a nice to have. Blade loses his infinite like regeneration potential by holding block, which is really nice to weave in, but even with the The synergies, especially with Ghost Rider, still is a great counter to like any villain, any like mystic champion in the game. Works so well for so many different matchups, and still has like a damage output boost in those matchups as well. So still great for those. But with that as regeneration, man, he is a little bit less sustainable, a little bit less valuable overall, but still a really solid god tier champion. And then we have Venom the Duck. So Venom the Duck is sick. Even without his awakened ability, you do lose a little bit more damage output, just because the special 2 like armor burns don't last as long, and that's kind of the primary source of Venom the Duck's damage output. But even unawakened, mate, he can just demolish so much content, but you do need to ramp him up and get a good collection of buffs there. Then we got Venom. Venom is an XL champion, great for like so many different scenarios where you need to like nullify the opponent, counter, evade champions that are Spider-Verse heroes, so like Spider-Gwen, Miles, classic Spider-Man, got an armor break on his heavy. There's lots of like different interesting stuff that Venom can do with his utility, and his damage output is awesome as well, man. So he's very good for really all of the variants, but especially variant 2, he really shines in that one. Variant 1, he's quite useful in that as well. Hyperion, without his awakened ability, is missing a lot of buff duration, which does impact this champion fairly heavily in comparison, especially with the 5-star version, because he's got like 75% less duration on his Fury and power gain, and that also interacts with the special 3. So yeah, there's a lot more damage and a lot more kind of power gain on Hyperion when you do have him awakened. However, even without his awakened ability, he's still a beast. He's still a really good champion. So yeah, Hyperion's a solid option to take up there. Medusa, she is missing a lot of damage output, and also the huge benefit that she can get with the full like royal family trinity unawakened. But even unawakened, she still has the ability to shut down robots and hit quite hard as well. So yeah, still Medusa, man, she's a solid god tier, at least in my opinion, even without that awakened ability. And then we got Colobsidian. Colobsidian is missing the ability to like get multiple routes, I believe, and get an additional attack bonus after like route goes on cooldown. But even without that, man, Colobsidian is still a pretty hard-hitting champion. You do need to get him ramped up, and sometimes that can be a little bit difficult because his block proficiency isn't the best, but you can still absolutely destroy a lot of content like once you do get him to like 5+ charges. And then we got Captain America Infinity War. Amazing block proficiency, some really solid damage output. You know, some interesting ways you can play him, like just by spamming the heavy attacks as well, just to quickly like counter evade champions if they can be stunned. However, a lot of Cap's utility does come from his awakened ability in a very high signature level, and without that he can't do stuff like reverse healing. So yeah, Cap's awakened ability is really good, but even without it, man, he's still a really solid champion. Then we got She-Hulk. So She-Hulk has the ability on a heavy attacks to apply slow, which can counter unstoppable and also evade champions. This character has some huge damage ramp up with the Furies, and the Furies also taunt the opponent, making them throw specials a lot more aggressively, which is a great time. And yeah, the awakened ability is really nice to have for like certain scenarios against like cosmic and mystic champions, but it's like a nice little bonus, man. It's really good for like the champion in 6.2, but also She-Hulk has the ability to block out and reverse healing with her special 2 as well. So yeah, she's a great champion, man. I really like my 5-star rank 3 one on the free-to-play account. Then we've got Gladiator Hulk being an XL champion. He's so good for like variant 2 and also variant 1 in the final chapter, like any scenario where there's like fun and interactive damage, so like Magic, Mephisto, Domino's critical failure, knows like Starburst as well. Like Gladiator Hulk is an absolute beast for very valuable champion. And then we got Thing. So ideally, if you do want to see the most out of Thing, you need the full team synergy of like the champion, Angela, Heimdall, and also Hela. But this champion with that team synergy is just crazy good. We got so much 6-star Thing gameplay on the channel, so if you want to see this champion in action, definitely check it out, man, because he's a bit of a quirky champion in the way that he works, but you can blow through all sorts of stuff like variant 1, variant 2, all sorts of paths in Act 5, Act 6. So yeah, he's just a really good option for any scenario scenario where this champion does work and you can bring in like a full synergy team. And then to quickly blitz through the high demigod tier as well, we got Wolverine X23, a little bit of regeneration and also a fair amount of damage. Ghost Rider is packed to the brim with utility. However, without his awakened ability, he does lose the damage and also loses a bit of duration on all his utility as well. Then we have Mephisto. So Mephisto has some pretty solid damage output once you ramp up the souls, and if you are using the full team synergy as well, you also have the ability to prevent the opponent from triggering buffs for the first 15 seconds of the fight, and you can keep using your special one to prevent the opponent from using buffs as well. So that is a really, really good time in certain matchups where you just want to like shut down buff gain like Vision Arcus or the champion, but he does have like a limit based on the amount of souls to how long that can go on for. So Mephisto, you know, in the right scenario, man, he can be very, very useful. Massacre, you got a ton of damage, man, a lot of incinerate damage that can be dealt as well, and pairs very well with Domino. Gwenpool, you've got a lot of damage output, still a very, very strong bleed champion, also potential like power lock on the special too, if you're playing very well and intercepting. But yeah, you're missing the ability accuracy reduction and also the ability to tank special 3s of that out, the awakened ability. So yeah, that is a little bit lacking there. But Killmonger, he's missing a bit more damage output without the awakened ability, but he still has the ability to gain True Strike via intercepting the opponent with a Winter Soldier synergy, or intercepting very quickly after the opponent uses a special attack. So that can allow him to counter evade champions, auto block champions, and also via the special 2 you have the ability to have a bit of a safety net with the 3 indestructible charges, maybe tank special 3s provided they don't have like a stun or a damage over time effect associated with them. And then we got Nick Fury. So Nick Fury is missing a lot of damage output and a bit of utility without his awakened ability, but he's still got some alright bleed damage, man, and if you keep on spamming the special 1, you can counter champions that like have evade or maybe an invisible mechanic. So unawakened Nick Fury, he can still work for some scenarios, but you know, he's certainly nowhere near the power of like a fully awakened Nick Fury, man. And then we have Winter Soldier, great damage output. If you have a 5 or 6 star version of Killmonger, you can really beef up this man a fair bit. Essentially he does become like Star-Lord, man, so that's a really good time, or awakened Star-Lord should I say, because as you can see here, like Star-Lord, man, is not very good without his awakened ability. Like same here for Agod, man, definitely taken down a fair peg there as well. Ronin is not really reliant on his awakened ability. He's a little bit tricky to play, but there's some pretty good damage output with Ronin. Not the best, not the worst, but he's alright. Elsa Bloodstone, you have some pretty good damage output as well. Again, very similar spot to Ronin, but you do have this very awesome like parry evade mechanic. So when you parry, you like auto evade, you like silent stun the champion so you can go back in, so it means that you don't have to take block damage there. And also there's some pretty decent stuff that Elsa can do in terms of like delivering direct damage, so she doesn't really need that awakened ability, but the awakened ability does help with her damage output when it comes to science champions, XL champions, and I believe the final boss node as well. So yeah, she's quite fun to play. And then we got Carnage. Carnage does have a lot of bleed damage, very fun to play, man, a lot of power gain on this dude. However, ideally you do need the deep wounds mastery, very similar story with Nick Fury as well. So if you want to play these bleed champions, man, ideally you do want to invest in 5 out of 5 deep wounds. Hela, if you can ramp up the Furies, man, just spam those heavy attacks, you can have a really, really good time with this champion. There is a lot of damage output to be gained, but Hela, I think she does have a fairly high skill requirement if you want to play this champion well. There are some insane Hela gameplay videos knocking about on YouTube, so definitely look up some like 5 or 6 star Hela gameplay. And then we've got Angela. So Angela has a decent amount of damage output, a little bit of regeneration as well, and also an armor up buff which allows her to counter Havoc, which can be very, very nice. Proxima Midnight, even Unawakened, does have access to a lot of damage output. If you can complete like 2-3 missions and then start firing off special attacks, she hits like a friggin' truck, and also has the ability to reduce the opponent's ability accuracy by 100% whenever she parries. So yeah, that can be really valuable for nodes like Masochism, also Iron Man Infinity War. So Proxima, she has her uses there. Gamora has an insane amount of damage output once you ramp this champion up. Like, she's a really, really hard hitting champion, so she can be quite nice to play in the right scenario where you do need like a really big amount of damage there. Vision Arcus has a lot of power gain, the ability to apply a lot of armor breaks and also armor shatter, both robot and also tech metal champions if you do have the vision synergy with a 5 or 6 star version of vision, which I get, you know, isn't that common at the moment, but hey, it might be in the future. Dr. Octopus has the ability to power lock and also heal block opponents. Ideally with Doc Ock, I think you do need the Awakened ability just because it allows you to siphon like power back with the power lock and also healing back, so it makes him like a lot more enjoyable and a lot more practical to play. But even Unawakened, there's some really cool stuff Doc Ock can do in any scenario where the opponent has like a power flood ability or lots more power gain. He can just absolutely dominate by spamming heavy attacks. So yeah, that's a really, really nice time there. And then we got both versions of vision. You've got double immunities, the ability to power drain, heal block as well. So yeah, they're both very solid champions with some very simple utility there. Iron Man, bit of a Swiss Army knife. His Awakened ability does kind of unlock a god tier style of damage output because it allows you to get like a huge amount of power and allows you to stack up those plasmas very quickly with the Stealth Suit SpiderMan synergy. But even Unawakened, there's a lot of utility on this man, and if you have the Stealth Suit SpiderMan synergy, you can still get some really, really good damage. So yeah, he's still a beast even Unawakened. Then we got Sentinel. Sentinel, I really like his Awakened ability because I find it just makes it so much more easy to ramp up the champion and really start delivering that big damage. But even Unawakened, man, if you can play this champion well, he is really enjoyable and can produce like a lot of damage output. Very good for like all 3 of the variants. But ideally, man, that Awakened ability is really, really nice to have on Sentinel. Dark Hawk as well, you've got a lot of damage output via the Special 3, and it does allow you to get like additional power gain when you're in that Special 2 phase. So it can allow you to like alternate the Special 2, Special 3, and siphon the regeneration as well, which adds a good level of sustainability to Dark Hawk. But even without it, man, he's still got double immunities, a fairly decent amount of damage, heal block on the Special 3, which lasts for 30 seconds. So Dark Hawk, even Unawakened, is pretty damn good. Then we got Mysterio. Mysterio has a truckload of damage output once you activate that Special 3, and also some really, really big poisons as well. He's also a poison immune champion himself, and also is immune to ability accuracy reduction, so makes him very good versus Domino matchups and also Black Widow matchups. So yeah, very good champion for some stuff in Variant 3. And then we got Wasp. So Wasp has a load of damage output, a very core component of the Trinity with Ghost as well, and also can incorporate like heavy attacks into her standard combo, so that's very good for fighting champions like Ebony Maw and any scenarios where you need to weave in heavy attacks to counter a certain mechanic. Then we got Luke Cage, spam Special 1, win the video game, solid bleed immune champion, a lot of stuns, also the ability to like reverse power gain as well if you're playing very, very aggressively in matchups such as Doctor Strange and maybe Havoc as well. So yeah, Luke Cage, he's a bit of an interesting one, man. I really do enjoy playing him. And then we got a bit of Red Hulk, so a very core component of the Domino and Massacre Trinity there. A lot of damage output that you can achieve very quickly versus any Mystic champion and any scenario where there's energy damage as well. If you can ramp up those heat charges very quickly, like he's awesome. Very good for like Variant 1, Variant 2, because he's an XL champion as well. But yeah, like Red Hulk is a very solid option. Void is still good Unawakened. Ideally, you do want the Despair Mastery so that you can reliably reverse healing when this champion is Unawakened. But ideally with Void, you do want his Awakened ability so you can guarantee that you're going to be able to reverse healing quite substantially in a matchup. But again, even Unawakened, man, he's still a pretty solid champion for blocking out healing, dealing a lot of additional damage over time. Then we got Spider-Gwen. She's the ability to deal a fair amount of damage, also like evade unblockable specials. Got some very good matchups against champions like Maestro and also the Collector, because she starts with a certain amount of her charges. But yeah, also a very strong ability to counter unstoppable and also evade champions via the heavy attack as well, which is very, very nice. But Spider-Gwen, after a buff earlier this year, is really, really solid. Human Torch is an absolute beast versus any Mystic champion or any champion where there's a lot of energy damage output, so you can get those smolder charges and kind of fire those back at the opponent. Yeah, with his Incinerate, so that's really, really fun. But ideally, you do want the Thing synergy to kind of slow down the temperature decay when it comes to Human Torch, and I like throwing in the Nick Fury and also Ant-Man synergy, just so you can have a bit of a safe buffer, like charging up the heavy attacks to quickly get to 20 temperature. But yeah, Human Torch Man, you at least need the Thing synergy, at least in my opinion. And then Invisible Woman, like even Unawakened, you've got a lot of damage output. She's a very tanky champion, some very good block proficiency, and if you play this champion really well, yeah, you can get a lot of damage output if you can stack up the vulnerabilities on your opponent. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for all of the best Unawakened champions. I thought we'd cover the top 3 tiers there as well. I don't think there's too much to talk about in some of the lower tiers, but again, feel free to kind of browse this tier list at your leisure and see where some of the champions are ranked. Again, a lot of champions like Aegon, Star-Lord, like Dr. Voodoo, Scarlet Witch are already stripped back because they're very reliant on their Awakened abilities. But aside from that, there isn't like too much that changes in comparison to the standard tier list for a lot of the champions at the bottom. However, you know, all sorts of champions are stripped back, like Thor Ragnarok as well without his Awakened ability, and a few others like Cyclops Man goes straight into the meme tier. But aside from that, hopefully you found this Unawakened tier list somewhat useful. If you did enjoy it, please do smash that like button, that'd be greatly appreciated. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching, take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.